Hey, everybody, and welcome to the One Mind Dharma podcast. Um, just a few things before we get into today's talk. We do have the meditation challenge back up. It's free. You can do it on YouTube without subscribing to anything. You can also sign up via email, and you'll get a meditation every day direct to your inbox. The meditation challenge, we started it like 8 or 9 years ago now, just as a free offering for people that kind of want to investigate meditation for the first time or reconnect with meditation. I do Sharon Salzberg's meditation challenge quite a bit every year, usually in February. I recommend checking that out too. I think she offers it for free online in February. And I found it to be beneficial, especially during periods where maybe I'm like not practicing regularly or want to reconnect. So it goes through like a bunch of the basics of meditation, kind of foundational practices, offering almost a way to like dip your toes in the water of these different practices: concentration and walking meditation, mindfulness of the breath and body and feeling tone, the heart practices. You can find it at onemindedharma.com/challenge. And you should see a spot to put in your email to receive them via email, or down below is the YouTube link. We also have a course in the new year. This is something we talked about before. We used to go to a New Year intention setting ceremony at Against the Stream back in the day, then at Spirit Rock. And it was something I always loved. The idea of a new year is kind of... I find like a little bit silly, like it's a little arbitrary, but there is a sense of renewed or resetting intentions or reconnecting with ourselves in the new year. So anyways, it's a 4-week class series where we're going to dive into like a Buddhist perspective on setting intentions, on wise intention, and what are the traditional wise intentions, and what does that mean as lay people. We're going to talk about wise effort and the traditional wise efforts, as well as what it means for us pragmatically. How do we put effort forth to move toward these intentions? And then we're also going to talk about some balance, or some, I'd say balance is the best word, between that striving or orienting towards something, having an intention, and also accepting who we are and where we are. Because I think a big part of kind of setting intentions or striving in a sense towards something is we can lose or cause some suffering with the space between who we are and who we want to be. So that information, that's in the new year. It's a 4-week class series in January. The information's at onemindedharma.com/new year. No spaces, onemindedharma.com/new year. And as always, you can visit us on YouTube at One Mind Dharma, or Instagram at One Mind Dharma, or TikTok at The Mindful Counselor, or I think it's just at Mindful Counselor because I'm hip. So with all that out of the way, I wanted to talk today. I'm not sure what I'll call this talk, but as soon by the time you're listening to it, it will have a title. But I wanted to talk today about the power that we have. And I think that's a weird kind of introduction or way to put it. But specifically, I wanted to talk about the agency we do have over our own lives or our own practice. I think that one of the things that the Dharma has given me, or I've taken from the Dharma, or the Dharma has shared with me, is a recognition that I may not be able to change certain things in the world, in ourselves, right? But we do have the power to choose what seeds we plant in this moment. What karmic seeds are we planting? One of the things when I first got sober back in 2010. I almost said 2020. Back in 2010, I was very active in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm super grateful for the program and the people I met there and the things that I learned both from the program and from the community. But I remember walking into, it was before Refuge Recovery existed. I walked into a meeting at Against the Stream, a like Buddhist recovery meeting. And Noah had like a line in the format for the meeting that said something along the lines of like, we have the power over our own karma, that we don't like rest the power in. It was quite a juxtaposition with like the higher power or talk of God in 12 step. And I liked it. I liked it immediately. I think that it had its downsides. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But one of the things I liked about it was like, yes, I want to be in control. I don't want a higher power to be in control. I want to be in control. And it's pretty obvious to see how that could be a slippery slope or be dangerous. But it also, in a sense, empowered me. And through my years practicing, I've found that we have a lot more power in our hands or in our actions, our words, our thoughts than we often give ourselves credit for. And I bring this up today. I've been sick. It's that time of year. Even though we don't live somewhere that's cold, the kids are back in school. They're at a new school, and it just seems like every time of year, what am I trying to say? Every year at this time of year, the kids get sick, we get sick. We had strep throat, and then we're better, and now I have a little cold or whatever. So I'm working with no notes, didn't prepare a talk. But this comes up because I was meeting, as is often the case, meeting with students. I have had this conversation several times with students in the last like 2 weeks that things may not look how we want them to. We may not be the person that we 100% want to be. But one thing that is always true is that we have the power to plant the seeds that we wish to. We have the power, maybe not immediately, but we do have the power to create a different life. And I'll use a couple kind of like real world examples, and then I'll talk about how this relates back to the path and meditation. When we left the United States back in 2017, and we moved to Mexico just for a year to give it a shot, see how we liked it. We ended up staying. But one of the things that happened was we made friends with a lot of other immigrants from the United States, Canada, England, other English-speaking countries. And inevitably, all of those friends left or moved on with their life. They went back home. They were kind of living a nomadic life and went somewhere else. And it's great in a sense. Like, I have a lot of friends now that live all over the world. And even when we go to places like the US, like I was in the US visiting my sister and nephews last year, and I got to see a friend that I met living here who's now married and just had his first kid. And it was lovely. But I was searching for something a little bit. I remember talking to Elizabeth, my partner, and saying, I don't like this. I don't like making like good friends with someone and then they leave. And it's not to say like I'm going to ignore everyone that's not going to stay here because they're not worth my time. But I think that I am craving like a little more long lasting and deeper friendships. Like I felt like this was happening to me, right? Like my friends keep leaving. And instead I took the power into my hands to, all right, I'm going to make friends that are a little bit more settled here. It's the nature of living somewhere like where we live, is it's kind of a tourist spot. There's a lot of people that come live here for a year or two and then, take the next step in their lives. But I'm going to try to make friends and put some effort forth to make some friends that are a little bit more stable here. Primarily Mexicans. not foreigners, because they're much more kind of immersed in the culture here, immersed in the life here. They have like a more solid foundation. And we did. We made some friends. I made some friends, like some surfer friends that were Mexican, and we surf with them all the time. And they don't, you know, they don't generally. They were born and raised here. They're not moving on. They love it here. We made some friends, some other parent friends that have kids that live here, have businesses here, and that was 6 years ago now, 7 years ago. And so now I've had these friendships that have lasted that long and continue to grow. The point being that I felt like this was kind of happening to me. Like these people were moving on, and it was just kind of the nature of my relationships. And I wanted something different, and I took steps. I planted the seeds. I'm going to make a little more effort to make friends with people who are a little bit more stable here, or a little bit more rooted here. And I think sometimes in life that happens to all of us, where we think things are happening to us, and in a sense they are. Things happen that are completely outside of our control. And the flip side of the coin is karma is always at play. When we can take direct action that may not bear fruit tomorrow or in an hour, but it may bear fruit in years to come. I see practice like this, of course. The more we kind of plant the seeds of mindfulness and compassion, and presence and concentration, the more easily we can kind of access that fruit. And in a sense, as the fruit grows and we like harvest it, it drops more seeds and it kind of snowballs. The loving kindness becomes easier and easier and easier as we continue with it. I was meditating this morning, and I don't know why. It's funny, I just said to Elizabeth, like 9 out of 10 meditations I've had in the last like month have just been I sit down and this kind of like zoop, just like locked in, meditating past when my bell goes off if I have a bell set, and just like full contentment and a collected mind. And I said that to her last night, and then I sat down this morning, closed my eyes, and both my mind and body just were like, like they were jumping on a trampoline. And nothing happened this morning, like it was a normal morning and everything. But such is the mind and body sometimes, right? We get that monkey mind, or the energy in the body or mind while we're meditating, or maybe the lack of energy and we're super tired and experiencing sloth and torpor during meditation. But I had this moment kind of looking at the third foundation of mindfulness, of mental states, that, oh, the mind is not concentrated and collected right now. It's scattered, and I don't know if energetic is the right word, but like misplaced energy. It's like not collected energy. And I was sitting there kind of like lamenting that, of, oh, I don't want it to be like this, right? This disliking or aversion, this clinging to how my meditations have been in the previous days. And I had this moment of, okay, well, I can choose what I do here. I've already recognized not everything that's going on, but I've recognized what's going on. I've recognized that my mind and body feel like this. I've recognized or placed the label that, like, oh, they're a little scattered. I know what it feels like. I'm tuning into the direct sensation of how it feels and what it's like. And I'm noticing this quality of like Vedana, unpleasant, and kind of the mental reaction of wanting it to go away. And it may not surprise you to learn that just wanting it to go away did not make it go away. And I returned, I just kind of was like, all right, I have a choice here in how I respond to this. I can stick with it and kind of white knuckle try to push it away, which I know for a fact is not going to work. Or I can just continue on with my meditation, with the brain, with the body, kind of with this energy. And that was what I did. I went into my metta practice, which is how I've been starting my periods of meditation. And the mind was like it didn't calm down immediately. It was still scattered. It was still kind of bouncing around from thing to thing. And I just kind of noted it. Oh, that's nice. It went off on this tangent. And I came back to my metta practice. And I sat like that for 30 minutes. And uh, by the end of the 30 minutes, I probably was a little bit calmer, more collected, but the mind didn't really stop. Uh, the mind and the energy in the body stopped and settled, but the energy in the mind didn't. I kind of had monkey mind going the whole time. And as much as I would love to tell the story of like by the end of the meditation, I was in complete absorption and it was full of bliss, it just was not the case, right? The case was that the mind was still scatterbrained or looking for stimulation or something. But all of that being said, I planted the seeds that I believed to be useful in that moment. In that moment of struggling with the mind and wanting to push away thoughts and emotions and experiences, in that moment of experiencing unpleasant Vedana, in that moment of experiencing a lack of control, that I can't control the mind in this moment, I did what I could, which I controlled what I could, which is I focused my attention, in this case, on the phrases of metta. When the mind wandered off, I returned back and I did so gently. And when I didn't do so gently, I noted that it wasn't very gentle or I was beating myself up. And I just kept coming back. It's in these moments that we are taking the power into our own hands. It's in these moments that even though it may feel kind of uncomfortable, we still have the ability to plant or water the seeds that we wish. We still have the ability to, not still, I would argue, in these moments like this in meditation, we have a super powerful opportunity to plant seeds. How am I going to respond when the mind is not doing what I want it to do? This is so relevant to so many kind of afflictive emotional states, to anxiety. Sometimes we feel anxious about something or stressed, and we can't let it go. It's not that easy. Just like let it go or let it be is such a wonderful teaching. Ajahn Chah talks about it so much, of just leaving things be. And it's a powerful practice. I actually think like leaving things be is kind of at the core, so fundamental to Dharma. But sometimes that's a little bit abstract or we're not able to. Sometimes when we're angry and we don't want to be angry anymore. I've had things happen. I'm trying to think of one on the go. I've had things happen where there was something with Elizabeth the other day where it was like, one of those really small kind of couple things where like I forgot what it was. She did something and like didn't think of me, or it was something tiny. And I was like sitting in my office doing some work like an hour later, and I was still kind of resentful. And I thought, I don't want to feel like this anymore. Like it hurt me or it ups, whatever. But like doesn't need to be a whole thing either in our relationship or within me. Like I don't want to feel like, what are you doing, mind and body? I don't want to feel angry or frustrated or whatever anymore. But that pushing away of the anxiety, of the anger, doesn't always serve us. What does serve us, as far as leaving it be, is choosing how we respond. In those moments, we have a choice in what seeds we're going to plant and water. Am I going to water the seeds of anger and kind of feed into it? Am I going to water the seeds of anxiety and continue to kind of fuel this fire of thoughts in my mind? Or can I maybe get a change of environment? Sometimes when I'm angry or I'm experiencing anxiety, I get up and go for a walk. Maybe I go pet the dog or something. Maybe I take some deep breaths or actually sit in meditation. Maybe I put some music on. Maybe I like really sit with it and observe it, what's going on in the mind and body, and tend to it with compassion and with care if I'm able. But we have power in these moments to choose what seeds we're planting and watering. And the fruit of this, what we harvest or reap, often comes down the line and is bigger picture than just like one instance or one experience. But what happens is now when I experience anger today, I'm able to see it more clearly and separate it out into a feeling in the body. I can see the kind of thought pattern that goes with it. I can see the overarching mental state. I can see the like clinging to self and the becoming that happens with it. And that is the fruit of continuing to water these seeds in moments of anger. Same with anxiety. When I feel anxious, I'm able to see it before it's consumed me. Not always, but most of the time. And I kind of have a default set of tools to use that come from practicing that even when it was really hard. And what happens is today it becomes easier. When I'm feeling like really anxious, I don't have to kind of go back to like my notebook in my head and go through all my options of like, what could I do with this? When I'm feeling really anxious, I get up and I take a walk. It's that simple. I don't even have to overthink it. And I kind of invite in some compassion and invite the feeling to, you're allowed to be here, you're welcome here, to kind of counteract that pushing away. And I think the point here is that these qualities or qualities of ourselves or experiences that we have some power in both how we respond to them, and we have some power in how often they come up in the future. One of the teachings I mentioned at the beginning that I'm working on a 4-week class series for the new year. It's called Begin Again. And one of the traditional teachings on wise effort, and I don't have any notes in front of me, so I may butcher this, but one of the traditional teachings on wise effort in the Dharma is that we are to cultivate the things that are skillful or lead to liberation. Once they are kind of arisen, once a skillful quality has arisen, we should put forth the effort to keep it arisen. We should put forth the effort to keep the unskillful qualities from arising. And once they have arisen, we should put forth the effort to minimize them. And I think that's exactly this practice, that it's not that the anxiety is the unskillful quality. It's not that the anxiety is necessarily the instruction here as far as effort. But there is effort to be put forth in, I know I get more stressed and anxious when I don't sleep well, when I don't eat well. I get stressed and anxious when I haven't spent enough time with my kids and I feel a little guilty. It impacts every aspect of my experience. I get stressed and anxious when somebody's sick, when a kid or a dog or someone is sick. So we can practice some wise effort and kind of take this power into our hands. First, by recognizing what kind of activates us, but also when the anxiety has arisen, wise effort calls for us to know how to deal with it, to know how to, what seeds to plant, what seeds to kind of harvest in that moment. And as we do this and practice wise effort over and over again, we're choosing what we're feeding and what we're not. We're choosing, in a sense, a future self or a future experience that will be heavily colored by what we choose to do today. I have a friend who he lost his job by no fault of his own, no fault of his own, but the company downsized like about a year ago. He had like a little bit of savings and kind of didn't work for 2 or 3 months and loafed around. And to be honest, he works very hard. He deserves some free time. Uh, but as the months kind of passed, he said, like, I only have like this much money left. And I'm like, what do you think I should do? And I said, I think that you should find a job or find a way to earn some money. A single man who no kids, no dependents, no one else earning income. So you need to get a job because you need to live. He said, well, I still have like this much money left. So like, I think I'm going to wait a month. And I said, uh, if you do get a job, they're probably not going to pay you up front. In general, you're going to have to work there for however long until your first paycheck. You have to go through the application process, the interview process. Then you have to work for however long for your first paycheck. So if you like started today, your first paycheck wouldn't be until when you're talking about. So I think you should get a job. And this is a friend, like an old student from like 10 years ago that we still stay in touch. And he said, okay, thank you. I appreciate it or whatever. He didn't get a job. He waited like a month. He got a job. And exactly that happened where he kind of not like ran out of money, but was really tight on money towards the end, waiting for his paycheck. And he said to me, he said, you said exactly what was going to happen. And I did it. And he said, he's like a great level of insight and said, I feel really frustrated that I had the opportunity to kind of plant some better seeds here, or I had the opportunity to make a better choice and I didn't. And now I'm reaping kind of the consequences of my actions. And we talked about forgiveness and compassion and great, we learned something here, like for sure. We don't have to beat ourselves up over it. That serves us no purpose. But it was a really good example, a really clear example of so much of our experience is dictated by the choices we made in the past. And that's not to say that, certain things are happening to us because we're bad or it's our fault. I don't want to perpetuate that sentiment. But there are a lot of things that we can take control over. We can go look for that job even though we're not quite out of money to kind of give our future selves a better chance at happiness. Elizabeth, tomorrow, as of recording this, is my older son Eli's 6th birthday. And we're having a birthday party. And it's just a lot of work, like planning a birthday party for a child. It's just a lot of work and like a lot of little things. And it's going to be awesome. But Elizabeth said like 2 mornings ago, she said, I just feel stressed about like everything with Eli's party. And I said, I think you can thank your past self because you did all the work like a month ago and planned it all and we got it all set. We're having it at like an awesome place here that has a rock climbing for kids. It has a pool. It has a bunch of trampolines. It has like a cenote, like a sinkhole to swim in. Like you thank your past self because you don't need to necessarily stress today because there's nothing to do. And she said, yeah, you're right. Like we both did put forth a lot of effort like a month or so ago planning it. So now that it's tomorrow, we're not really that stressed about anything. If anything, we're stressed about it's not in our control at this point. Like we took all the steps. I've told this on the podcast before, but every year around the holiday season, December, we have like just a crazy outflow of money. We have to pay our property tax on like January 1st to get the discount. Not on January 1st, but like the first week of January to get a discount. We have HOA fees due towards the end of December. buying gifts for the holidays for ourselves, and we don't buy a lot of gifts, but like for my nephews we do and stuff, and for like a few families here. And then everybody that works for us here in Mexico, we give aguinaldo, like a Christmas bonus. You're supposed to give like roughly 2 weeks pay as a bonus to anybody. So like we have a pool guy who comes twice a week to work on the pool. So there's like a lot of, outflow of money, and it was stressful every year. So like 2 years ago, maybe I said, okay, this is how much we spend every December, roughly. I'm gonna divide that by 12, and I'm gonna put that much away in savings every month. So then when December comes, it's not such a headache. It has totally turned around my experience of Christmas and the holiday season. When it comes now, I'm not stressed. I'm not as worried about money. I'm not scrounging to find the money. And we do the same, obviously, with taxes. We do the same now with the kids' birthdays. We put money aside every month for it. These are steps that I can take to kind of gift my future self some fruit of peace or ease. It starts with recognizing that there's some suffering happening, right? It starts with recognizing this is uncomfortable and doesn't need to be this way necessarily. I can't change it in the moment that, taxes are due or whatever. I can't change the amount of money I have. But what I can do the year prior is I can set an intention. I want to intend to make this easier on myself. What does that look like? It looks like saving, roughly this percentage or this much money, putting forth the effort and really planting the seeds. And we can do it with things like money like that, or planning events like a birthday. But I think we can do it in meditation too. We can do it with the path. Oh, I find myself in meditation getting really tired or falling asleep a lot. Cool. Find a different time to meditate. Maybe check what you're eating. Maybe try walking meditation. Plant some different seeds. Take some power back into your own hands of how you can deal with that. I think one of the things I hear most from people is that I can't meditate. I have like monkey mind. My mind does not settle, which is, I understand why people say that as like a newcomer to meditation, but it's also just such a ridiculous thing to say because if you could already settle your mind no problem, you wouldn't need meditation. It's a practice. But what do we do with that monkey mind? What do we do when the mind just goes and goes, bouncing from one thing to another? Or maybe it's stuck on one thing. It's stuck in anxiety or stuck in something in the past. What do we do in those moments? What we do is recognize that there's some suffering here, that we're wanting things. Maybe there's craving and clinging or aversion and ill will. We set the intention to, I'm going to work with this, and we put forth some effort. We plant the seeds of mindfulness, of compassion with ourselves. We don't necessarily have control over a ton of things. I'm not even going to start listing them. We don't have control over most things, but we do have control over the decisions we make, the intentional actions we take, the karma. It reminds me of, I think I talk about it every podcast episode, but surfing, I can't control the wind, the direction of the swell, the tides. They come how they come. But what I can control, if I want to catch a wave, is where I'm going to sit. Where I'm going to sit and wait. Where are the waves breaking? If I'm waiting in the right spot, I can catch it. If I'm waiting in the wrong spot, I might get tumbled. And the more I surf one spot, the more I get to know it. Oh, the wind's coming from this direction and the swell is like this. This is where I usually sit. I literally make better decisions toward my end by observing, by experiencing, And sure, the next time I come back, the conditions might be slightly different. It's so similar to the mind and to life experience that sure, next time we go into this situation, last time we whatever saw our brother-in-law, we were super anxious. And so the next time we go see them, the conditions will be slightly different, but we also know from observing where to sit, where to wait for that wave. We know how to water the seeds, or we know trying to water that seed didn't work, or trying to respond like this didn't work. We have some agency to really choose. And again, it may not be immediately fruitful. It may not be something where we immediately feel a reprieve, but over time, these actions, however quote unquote little they may be, add up. I'll end with just an example that I think I talked about a few months ago on the podcast, or it might have been in a group or something. I noticed like last year that I don't want to sound like I'm blaming the Dharma, but because of the Dharma and the lens through which I viewed it, I focused so much of my energy on the suffering, the difficult moments. And the truth is, I think with reason, especially when I came to the path and practice, that was what needed the most attention, was this kind of immense amount of suffering I felt like I was experiencing. As my practice in life and maturity have progressed, I came to notice that, ooh, I am not in touch with the joy in my life. Like I have little glimpses of it where I feel truly joyous or content or happy, but I'm almost unable to sit with it as much as I'm unable to sit with suffering. When I experience a moment of joy or a moment of like contentment, I felt immensely uncomfortable and like kind of made a joke or changed the subject very quickly. I still do it quite a bit. And I truly like had an ability, it seemed like, to sit with the discomfort more than the comfort, or had an ability to sit with the unpleasant much more than the pleasant. And I thought, that's not ideal. I want to be present for my experience. And part of my experience is moments of joy. And so I actually reached out to a therapist and worked with it through like the lens of meditation and mindfulness, of really tuning into the joy, of recognizing the joy that is present and being with it, and not necessarily watering the seed of joy in the sense that I'm going to have more joy, but watering the seeds of attentiveness to joy, of sitting with the discomfort of joy and seeing why I'm uncomfortable. Turns out part of it was like a clinging or grasping, like a fear of losing it. But what happened over that year or so was I was able to kind of tune into and be with the joy in a much simpler way. And I still find myself impressed by the fruits thus far of that work. Of when I experienced, we were just before recording, before clicking record on this, the dog was one of our dogs was barking, and so I went outside to like probably tell her to be quiet, to be honest. And there was just a deer like 5 feet away from her, uh, which is like, you know, we live in like rainforest, like jungle. You don't see deer that much here. Just kind of like stood there and watched the deer. We have an empty lot next to us, and it went kind of over to the front of the house. So I walked through the house and went out the front, and we watched it. And then, and I called Elizabeth. She was in between client sessions. It was like, there's a deer like right here. We kind of just like stood there and watched the deer, not even saying anything. And thought, oh, that's impressive that I can like sit there and watch the deer, not make a joke, not, you know, be super uncomfortable, but just enjoy it. Just enjoy this kind of deer walking through the jungle here. Those are from seeds that I planted. with the help of other people, with the help of a therapist, with the help of a Dharma community, with the help of the Dharma teachings. I'm not saying that like I'm so powerful and I can dictate anything in my life, but there are things we can. These qualities or experiences we have that are causing suffering to ourselves or to others, we often can change. If we can't change the actual experience or the actual like action or what's happening, we can change or alter or improve our mental psychosocial response to it. Psychosomatic, that's the word I'm looking for. Psychosomatic response to it, right? Like what we feel in the mind and body and everything going on in relation to it. So that's really my encouragement to you is to ask yourself, what can you change? What seeds can you plant? Many years ago, we were sitting with Ton Jeff, and Elizabeth asked a question about having compassion for somebody who was clearly causing the harm to themselves, and not like in a self-harm way, but in a like I have someone in my life who tends to kind of make impulsive decisions and then they suffer because of it. And what's the answer there with compassion? And Tanasaru Bhikkhu Tanjef said, in that moment, it's not your responsibility necessarily to teach them how to not behave like that, but just to have compassion in that moment. It's a calling not to like judge their karma, but to have compassion. And when the time is right, we might work with them or help them or offer them advice if it's asked for on how to avoid that suffering. But it's not our job to judge the karma or how someone got there as much as our what's called for is having compassion in that moment of planting those seeds. And I found that a very hard answer. Yeah, I found that a very hard answer for many reasons. Like people I know, politicians, like it's a hard answer. But as I've continued to do that, it's just come more naturally and easy to me. That yeah, I can have compassion for the politician I don't like. Doesn't mean I agree with them. It doesn't mean I endorse their behavior or what they're doing. But I can feel some empathy. We have power over these things, even if it takes time, even if it doesn't feel like we're going anywhere. So I encourage you to look at the things, look at the places that you might be able to plant some seeds that you haven't thought of planting seeds, even in the difficult moments, to plant some seeds of compassion for yourself or for others, to plant some seeds of mindfulness, of when the mind is super active, maybe mindfulness of the body, maybe mindfulness of the thoughts or mental state. I think as we continue to put forth effort in this way, it's, in my experience, remarkable how these little seeds can grow. So I'll end it there, in part because I'm holding back coughing really hard. It's beginning to hurt. Remember that if you have any questions, you can write me at matthew@oneminddharma.com. For the free meditation challenge, the 30-day meditation challenge, it's oneminddharma.com/challenge. And for the New Year's class series, it is oneminddharma.com/New Year.